Speedrunning at its very core is simply just beating a game as fast as possible. Runners try to find glitches and optimizations that allow them to achieve the goal of being as fast as possible. But what if I told you that's not all that speedrunning is about? What if I told you that speedrunners from all across the world form communities, bonds, and friendships online? What if I told you that these bonds could be stronger than those you would encounter in the real world? This is the story of how the Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights community evolved into something more than just a community. The game itself follows Scooby-Doo and the gang after they are brought to a haunted manor to investigate the disappearance of Professor Alexander Graham. The gang are abducted by the mastermind shortly after they arrive, leaving Scooby all alone to find them. Scooby makes his way through the iconic areas of the game such as the Mystic Manor, the Graveyard levels, the Shipwreck levels, and the Super Secret Lab. One by one, Scooby finds and releases his friends from the clutches of the mastermind by fighting and defeating old popular Scooby-Doo villains such as the Black Knight, the Green Ghost, and Redbeard. In order to progress, Scooby has to unlock snack gates that block his path throughout the game. He unlocks these by collecting enough Scooby snacks in order to pay the toll of each gate. He also has to find and collect inventions made by the missing Professor Alexander Graham that allow him to access new areas with their abilities. These inventions allow Scooby to glide through the air, climb up steep slopes, and encase enemies in bubbles, just to name a few. Scooby uses each of these inventions to eventually set free his friends and defeat the mastermind. In the Night of 100 Frights speedrun, runners actually skip a majority of the game. They skip levels, boss fights, inventions, and even snack gates throughout the game. This has allowed runners to cut down an otherwise lengthy 10-hour game to just a measly 18 minutes in the 80% category. But this documentary isn't really focused on the accomplishments of these runners or even the optimizations that they have made for their game. It is instead focused on the runners themselves and how they have cultivated a positive community that feels less like a normal speedrun community and more like a family. So without further ado, let's begin.
Hello, my name is Lito290. I'm currently a streamer on Twitch in my spare time. I am a software engineer by trade, and I am from Fort Worth, Texas. I'm currently 27 years old. So the first introduction I had to Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights would have been when I was about 4 or 5 years old. That was when I first got the game. My parents got a bunch of random games for the PlayStation 2 since we had one, and it was, we were too young to have developed any tastes at that point to know what games we wanted, but it was a way to kind of shove the kids in the corner with a TV and keep them entertained, as a lot of parents like to do. So they got us Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights for the PS2, played a little bit of it, never actually beat it casually, and I kind of gave up on it after about a year. We got some other games that came out that we played instead. It wouldn't have been until about 2016, I think is what it was, where I was reintroduced to the game and reframed it from a couple of others from the Scooby community. Summer Sunset 2007 in particular, that brought it back up, showed me that it could have been a speedrun game. I didn't know what speedrunning was, and so I decided to give it a shot after seeing one of her attempts and going, oh yeah, I think I have that game somewhere in the back. So decided to give it a try.
So hey, my name is Harsh. I speedrun Scooby-Doo. I'm 26 years old, I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm about to, rock your world with this interview. I had the game as a kid. My parents got it for me for, I believe it was like my 6th or 7th birthday. It was like a random game, and it was like my second GameCube game along with Mario Party. And I grew up just watching the cartoon and stuff and the movies from VHS tapes. So I naturally liked Frights just because it had all the classic Scooby-Doo villains the zombie, the witch, and so on. I struggled a lot in the beginning areas, just like any other dumb kid would, but being one of your first video games you play, you're just gonna be bad at everything. I know I beat it as a kid, somehow, but I'm just when you're a kid, you just have unlimited free time, so just go around every little corner of the game until you kind of figure out what to do. Then I picked it up years later, and I when I did YouTube for a little while, I did a Let's Play of it, and in 2014, and I found it was this game is a lot better than I remember it being.
My name is Spooky Speedruns, or Shelgon, or as a lot of people in the community call me, just Andy. I've been a runner of this game for about 8 or so years. The first time I discovered 900 Frights speedruns was when I first discovered speedrunning itself, which was around when SGDQ 2013 happened. which I mainly liked for the obvious games like Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Mario 64, which I thought was all neat and cool, but I really was interested in seeing a run of a game that I have personal experience with. So through that, I just looked up 900 Frights speedrun on YouTube, which in 2013, 2014 did not yield a lot of results. I think there was 2 runners at the time, Fabulous Fish and Cooper Crisp, in which those runs were very ancient at the time. There was about a 2+ hour run of Fabulous Fish, and then there was, I think the world record at the time was an hour and 30-some minutes by Cooper Crisp, and I kind of just thought to myself, like, yeah, I could probably compete with that. So that's when I first started running Night of 100 Frights.
Yeah, so I'm Jaxler. I am a speedrunner from upstate New York. Been doing it for about, say, 6 years at this point, started in 2014. So basically towards the end of high school is when I got into it. I started off with a game called Chibi Robo on the GameCube and picked up another SpongeBob game soon after that, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control over the next couple of years, and here we are playing a bunch of weird crap. I decided that I wanted to speedrun the game, I'd say a couple of years ago. Every 6 months, a speedrunner in the wide speedrunning community named Golan runs a event called the 12-Hour Challenge. It's sort of a thing where you just sort of loosely sign up and say, I'm going to learn how to speedrun this game in 12 hours or less. And so the idea behind that is twofold, to get people to, you know, try to pick up new stuff and not obsess over the details because you only have 12 hours. But also kind of to show people that, like, you can learn how to do this thing and not too much of a time commitment. So I'd say it was probably my first or second time doing the 12-hour challenge, and I had been thinking about running Night of 100 Frights, so I kind of just said screw it, and I picked it up from there. Started with the no GGS category.
Hey, my name's Summer. I am 26 years old, and I am from the United States. How I found out about the speedrun of this game was I got into a group of friends that were all into the Twitch streaming, YouTube Let's Play kind of scene, and some of them did speedrunning as well. So because I was hanging out with them, I ended up streaming myself. And one of my friends was holding a charity stream around, I think it was in October of 2015 or 2016. And they asked me if I would stream for a part of that charity stream, like when they were sleeping. And so, like, I got to pick which game I wanted to stream for it. So, because it was around Halloween, I wanted to do, like, some kind of spooky game. And the best I could come up with was Night of 100 Frights. So I started streaming that game for the charity stream, and then I continued, like, the kind of blind playthrough of it on my own channel, because I hadn't played the game for, like, a decade plus. And then as I was streaming it on my channel, I think either Baz or Holy Sanctum, maybe both of them, came into my chat and were asking me, like, oh, hey, are you interested in speedrunning this game? And this was back when the game, like, only had, like, 8 runners. So it was, like, really new at the time. And actually I had been thinking, because I had found out about speedrunning through this group of friends that I was hanging out with, and I was like, hey, that might be fun to give it a try. And I actually thought Night of 100 Frights would be a good game to try out for my first speedrun, so that's kind of how I got into the whole speedrunning scene. It was actually my first game that I'd ever speedrun.
Hi, my name is Nastani. I'm from Tennessee, and I am currently 23 years old. I decided that I wanted to speedrun it. Well, I didn't really decide. So what happened is I still forget to this day what transpired to lead me to happen, but basically what happened is that I lost a bet to Ryan. I still don't remember, but whatever the bet was, I basically just lost a bet to Ryan, and the bet was that, like, if, like, he won the bet or I lost the bet, like, if I lost the bet, I would have to do an 80% run of Frights. And so I was just like, surely it can't be that hard. Surely it's fine. And since I've been watching him for, like, I think, like, 3 or 4 years, like, running the game at this point, like, I would be in the streams consistently because he's one of my best friends. I basically already knew the route. So I pretty much just, like, I still remember my very first run to this day. I trailblazed through the game. I think my first run, I got into GGS room. Like in 30 minutes, I got to GGS. But unfortunately for me, that's where the fun stopped, essentially. I pretty much just like smorked through the game because I already kind of knew everything. Like I knew like where to go, like what the level layout is and what I was generally supposed to do in every single level. And then I remember I got to GGS and then I was there. But I was so hard-headed that I just absolutely refused to complete the run without doing GGS. And I remember it took me, I just sat there for a whole hour straight trying to get GGS. And then I finally got it. I got up to the pole at the top. Basically, there's like a couple ledges on the way, and then there's like a ledge that you can stand on, and then you jump off of that and go over. And so I remember I got up to that ledge, which is like a safe spot, and you could just chill. And I remember pausing there, and I was like, I got it. And then I just jumped off. I missed the bat. I plummeted to the ground, and then I did it all over again. It took me, I think, another like hour to get it. And then the same thing happened. And then I just did no GGS, and I left, and I fought Green Ghost, and then I got the umbrella, and then I completed the run.
So the origin of how the Scooby-Doo 900 Frights speedrun community forms is kind of quite interesting, to say the least. Mainly because at the time, no one really had Twitter that much. It was kind of still uncommon. There was no Discord. There were Skype groups, but not a lot of people had Skype. So the main way that the community, quote unquote, bonded was through YouTube comments. I went back and forth with Bazralian, or Baz as we call him, through the YouTube comments on Cooper Chris videos. And through that, eventually, we got like 4 or 5 people who were interested in the game, and we sort of formed a Twitter group chat. And we finally had some sort of means of talking to each other that wasn't just posting videos and seeing what other people were doing. But those days of just commenting on each other's YouTube channels and just uploading random skips were a lot of fun. And that eventually grew into a Discord, and I'm sure other people know the story better from there.
Hi, my name is Holy Sanctum. I'm from the United States. I'm 23 years old. So I think my first introduction to the Frights community, my guess would be that Bazralian showed up in my chat, because that's almost how it always happens. And then there was a Twitter group at the time for people in Frights, and I was added to that. And there was just a few of us in there. I think it was me, Bazralian, Cooper Chris, Gold Phoenix. I think there was Spooky Speedruns, and there might have been Bellary there, but I'm actually not sure if Bellary was in the Twitter group or not. That was pretty much it, but it's just a few of us in there. So I was a bit varied with some of my speedruns. I tried a few different things, and eventually I wanted to try out Paper Mario. And at one point I joined the Paper Mario Discord, and that was the first Discord I ever joined way back in the day. And I liked the format so much of it that I brought it back to the Twitter group that we were in for 900 Frights.
I'm Ryan. I've gone by Kusimbo. When I first joined the Scooby community, I've gone by Pong for the Win, I believe. I otherwise go by Ryan in the community. I'm 21 now, and I'm from Georgia. The Discord being kind of taking control of that was a very slow, gradual process. I can kind of follow through the steps of what kind of was going on. At first, I joined, I was like a regular community member / runner. And at the point when I joined, it was only the 900 Frights community. The other Scooby games were like people ran Cyber Chase, Mystery Mayhem, and to a lesser degree Unmasked. Those are basically the only ones that really got any traction at that point. But everyone in the Discord was only talking about 900 Frights, really. And so I kind of remained in that position for a year and a half or so, throughout all of 2016. And at that point, I was a very established figure in the community because I had held world record. I talked to everyone a lot. In early 2017, I think was when this happened, I had the idea to do the first Hepta relay. That was an idea which had kind of an integration with the Discord. And I was given, like a temporary mod roles, what they said, to kind of do everything to make that work, which involved, making the roles for red and blue teams, making Discord chats for them, voice channels on the day of the event and whatnot, kind of managing all that from the Discord end. and they never like took it away afterwards, so it wasn't temporary at that point. So I was like a Discord mod effectively for a while. I don't know, whenever Farah decided that like the Holy and Farah kind of transferred ownership of the Discord between themselves. I don't remember who had it at the time of me getting it, but they said, this Discord, the community is rather large. I'm not really a part of it anymore, so I want it to be in the hands of someone who is. So one of them, I forget which one, gave it over to me, which wasn't a big deal or whatever, because as the owner of the Discord, I don't really have permissions that the mods don't. But certainly I felt some obligation to kind of hang around and make sure everything's going well. As I said before, we were only a 900 Frights Discord community for a while, and other games were slowly, very, very slowly gaining traction. And so at some point, there was a significant amount of demand for expanding the Discord into a format that's more inclusive of the other games, to have a more universal hub for people running Scooby-Doo video games. And when we were doing that, a lot of people had very different opinions on how it would look in terms of like how voice chats are structured, how text chats are structured, or like, even like leaderboards. Like at that point was when I became a series mod for kind of visual stuff and mediating the games and whatnot. That was very difficult to deal with just because everyone had it was pretty polarizing. And a lot of people really stuck to the idea of keeping it mostly 900 Frights centered. And it took the better part of the day to actually come up with a plan, which hasn't changed much since. The current version of the Discord is about what we ended up at the end of that day.
My name is Coley, and I am 19, and I'm from the state of Michigan in the United States. I first joined the Discord, it was probably around the middle of June. And I joined it specifically to just ask questions because I've never posted anything really online before like this. So I was like, how does the video need to be? Is it okay if I'm not in it? How does the timer thing work? How do I set up the app? Most people use Live Split. So like, how do I set it up? Things like that. Like, how do I submit a run to the website, speedrun.com? And eventually I also got into my first call with somebody who was harsh. So I was like, oh my God, it's the guy who made the video? I'm talking to a guy who made a video on YouTube? I don't even know him? Because when, online interactions weren't a normal thing to me yet. I never talked to anybody from like a different state that I never met, or like a country. Now I obviously talk to like people all over the world, which is really cool. But at the time, I remember that was just a really like signifying moment because he was helping me learn some of the tricks in the game, which in retrospect are easy, but at the time, I didn't know. And it also gives me more sympathy. And I feel like everybody is like this, when you first join a Discord, especially when you don't know anybody, it's a little scary. Because you don't want to say anything stupid or make them think like, oh, well, who's this rando that joined, so anytime I hear somebody new, or I see somebody new, I try to like give them a more positive outlook. And I think there's definitely some members that I've talked to who also think the same as well. But yeah, I've met all sorts of wonderful people on the Discord, so I think it's only fair that I try and provide like a good environment for people to join and experience the same thing as well.
Hi, my name's Sam. I'm from England and I'm 23 years old. My first ever speedrun. This is interesting because I've gotten a lot better at capturing emulators since then. I didn't capture the audio on the actual game. I captured my laptop microphone somehow, and it has me like just mumbling about me being bad at the game, and like has random TV noises in it. The one with the bad game audio, well, no game audio, I'll be honest, was what was it September 2018? So I've been playing this game like speedrunning wise for nearly 4 years now.
So this is a very long story actually. So getting my first time on the board took a little bit of effort, so I hope you'll bear with me here. I originally didn't have the game in the back. I asked about it with my mom because I didn't carry the PS2 with me. I was in college at the time, and I went to college out of state, so it was a bit of a distance. Turns out we had resold it back to GameStop because we had just stopped playing it at that point. And so I did a little bit of research, and I figured out, yes, emulators exist, so let us do an emulation. So acquired a very potentially legal ISO of the game and got PCSX2 downloaded when it was still in version 13, 14. It ran absolutely atrocious, even though I had a decent machine to run it on, but they weren't accepting emulated times. So while I was kind of learning the game, getting it underway, I was just practicing on the emulator, and so my first couple of runs that couldn't be submitted were on emulator, and I think I actually still have a highlight of the emulator absolutely screwing up during the Shark Take scene right before Mastermind fight, where Shaggy actually clipped through the floor after falling off of the crane hand, and I couldn't get him back up, so I had to reset the room. That's still probably on my Twitch somewhere.
Bullshit! No! Oh, god damn it!
But I practiced on emulator for a very long time. I was checking GameStop to see if they would have this game at some point in time. I think I found it on Amazon for the PS2 originally. Texted my mom because when you're on a ramen and tap water budget, you can't afford anything anymore. And asked her if she would pick up the game. It was like $5. Got it. Then realized that the GameCube version is what everyone was speedrunning because version control, clips that were only available in GameCube, all the different speed optimizations that had already been done, and me not knowing the game, not having played it in 14, 15 years at that point, it just made sense to follow what the experts were doing. So I ended up also getting the GameCube game, and I do still own both copies of those games somewhere in this apartment that I'm in. Once I finally got the GameCube game, I already knew the routes, I already knew the strategies, and I believe my first time I didn't actually post. I wanted to get it under 1 hour because I wanted to be like top 10 or something on the leaderboard because it was so small. I set that goal for myself. My first time was like a 58:40 or something along those lines.
My name is Feranator. I am 26 years old and I live in New York. Submitting my first run, it was interesting. I mean, I had obviously submitted runs before, but I hadn't ever been involved in a community the same way I was with Night of 100 Frights. So submitting the run felt more like a formality at that point in time because I was actually in call and streaming with people in the community when I did the run. So it was not different in that I had submitted runs to boards before, but it was different in that it was the first time I felt included in the community while submitting the run. And right after I submitted the run, a bunch of people from the community, Holy Sanctum, Summer Sunset, we got together and did a bingo run, and I did terrible, but it was so much fun. A bingo run essentially it's the same rules as bingo, except instead of numbers on the grid, you have different objectives in the game. For example, get this power up or beat this boss, and you have to complete them and make a row, a column, or a diagonal the same way as bingo. The first one to do that would win.
Hi, my name is Jolly. I'm a speedrunner of this game called Night of 100 Frights, and I play it on the GameCube. It's a pretty good game. Also, like, why I still keep running this game is, for first part, I really love this game. I've loved this game my entire life. Like, it's probably like my overall favorite game of all time. I've played it so much. I just always come back to it. And also just like feel it's a very good speedrun. It's very interesting, has a lot of cool strats, very movement based, which I enjoy. And then also the community also around the game is really nice. I made a lot of friends that I talk with every week. So just a really nice community to be in. A lot of nice people.
So I guess why I kept running the game is I have this thing, like I like to speedrun a lot of games with like smaller communities, and I had, like Scooby was like this really cool speedrun to me, and for me, like, I think what I like doing within the speedrunning scene is bringing a light to games that people might not normally try, because if you look at the speedrunning community, you see Mario 64, you see Zelda games, you see all this like super popular stuff, Half-Life, all these super mainstream games, and it kind of constricts what people understand speedrunning to have the potential to be. And there's games like Scooby, 9 of 100 Frights, and some of these other games that I run that there are no other speed games that will ever really be able to recreate what those games bring to the table. And I felt being like me running, pretty much being the only other person at the time besides maybe Baz on occasion, or Harsh, who was starting to pick up the game around the same time. I felt that if I kept running, it would help the community to get more visibility and maybe encourage more people to come back into the game. And so that's kind of why I kept pushing on the no GGS, because it was fun, but I also wanted to get more visibility for the game.
I think part of what made me want to keep running the game was like how fun the tricks were to do. Like all of the jumping on the invisible walls and just like, I don't know, just like how much you can skip within the game. I feel like it always kept it really interesting. Like, I don't know, it was just a lot of fun to play. And I think another part was, back when I first joined, we were like members of the community, like Farah and Holy and Baz, we were like doing runs and races every single night. So it just kind of became like a friend community hangout kind of thing to do. So that was always a lot of fun too.
So in the first sort of, I don't know what to call it. I don't call it a revolution, or in the first renaissance of 900 Frights, which sounds really lame, but I might just go with it. In the first renaissance of 900 Frights, where a lot of new runners such as Farah and Holy, Summer, Lido, they joined, it was really exciting to be there at that time, mostly because the competition was better than ever up to that point. Prior to that, it was just mainly me, Baz, Gold, trading runs. Sometimes there's video, sometimes there's not video. Just he said, she said, oh, I just got a 30, oh, I just got a 32, and we just had to take each other's word for it. But at that time, when new people started to join, it kind of standardized Scooby-Doo 900 Frights more into, okay, you have to have video proof, you have to prove that you got these times, you can't just say you got them. And since there's more players in the game, that of course means that there's more tricks to be found, more glitches to be found, and the runs just kept getting better and better. And I think that's around the time GGS started being discovered. So that was a very painful and fun experience that we all had to learn.
Hi, I'm Baz. I am a 22-year-old speedrunner from the United States. I've speedrun Scooby-Doo 9 of 100 Frights and a bunch of other Scooby-Doo games. And I started speedrunning 9 of 100 Frights 7 years ago, and I've contributed a lot to finding tricks in the game, rerouting it, and basically anything you can think of regarding speedrunning for the game. Probably the community just kind of grew pretty slowly at the start, obviously, because people didn't pay that much attention to the game, which is kind of fair at first. But I'd say it really took off probably about a year later. That's like, I think we had made the Discord already. We'd seen a couple new runners who you mostly find just through kind of looking at the streams tab on Twitch and looking at streams who are people who are playing the game. And then in December, Christmas Day 2015, we found GGS. And that's when everything really started to kind of start blowing up. That's the couple months after that is when we started having our big like blow up in runners. I think like Feranator joined. I think Summer had maybe done like a run before, but then she started doing more runs. A lot of old people came back to the game, specifically Andy. You had Bellery there for a little while. He was more there before, but he mostly ran Hundo before GGS was found. Obviously you have Holy Sanctum, you have Zembo / Pawn for the win. Yeah, and I think that's how the game really started to grow a lot. Like, we've seen it in the last year too, with everyone finds new strats, and there's people running the game, cause it to blow up, I think, a lot more than we had previously thought would happen. Yeah, so 2018 through 2020 was just kind of it was a dead period. I think only really Admiral was running consistently, and like other people kind of pick up here or there for a little bit. But it was just, there was nothing really being found. I had been burned out from trying to go for 25, and I just kind of set it down for a while. I always find that once I take breaks, I usually do come back better. So it was pretty fun though watching other people kind of improve, specifically Admiral. He got really good AMT times and obviously a 25 in any percent. So it did kind of suck seeing the game die. But then obviously it came back pretty strong in 2020. We got a lot of new people and the game's really taken off from there. Oh yeah, I think it was Sam found a new trick and I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna get a 25. And I feel like I kind of sparked it to come back, and Sam too, because she found this trick. It gave everyone, a free 30-second time save, and so it was pretty good to get back into it. And it was so fun seeing people run again. We did races, like we got a bunch of new people in, old people came back. Definitely pretty fun to be a part of that, and I'm happy that I was.
So when I found Shark Skip, it was a Saturday. I remember that because I had like Dolphin open and I was like messing around in the shark room. Like I watched like a epicness clip just a bit before. And I was wondering if you could clip through the ceiling by going around on Shaggy's legs. You couldn't. So I got kind of frustrated because I was like, bro, I just booted up the game, got my ears blown out by the stupid Heavy Iron Studios logo for no reason. And then I was just like, what? Okay, I'll just jump at the door. And then I went through and I was like, shit, I went through the door. And I was like, was I recording that? And I was like, okay. And I was like, hey guys, I just clipped through this door. And then they were like, is this a joke, Sam? And I was like, no, I did it. And then I managed to replicate it again. And then, I knew it was like a large time save, but I wasn't really expecting everyone to be like, I like playing this game now again. And then everyone starts playing it again. And then a year after we get into GDQ, which I was like, okay. It felt, I feel like I contributed to something bigger. Even though I call it my skip, I more care about the games, the understanding of how the game works, and all the different sorts of glitches you can do with it, being understood rather than taking ownership of a glitch and being like, you only got that world record because I found that trick.
Hi, I'm Snowy. I'm 21. I'm from Canada, and I used to run Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights a little bit. I think the most active runners at the time were Baz and Jax. Baz at the time was the world record holder and was kind of he was basically trying to gatekeep world record. So there's him, and then I think there was Jax, who was kind of big up-and-comer at the time. I think he recently broke the 25 barrier, and that was a big deal at the time I had started running. And then there was there were still a couple other people. I know I don't think Ryan was super active, but he had a really good time. There's definitely active people, but in terms of runners, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Baz and Jax were the top active runners at the time. And then there were people like Ryan. I think Admiral still had a good time at the time. And I think I'd also gotten in a couple months after Shark Skip was discovered. I think that was around the same time. And that was kind of a big deal because it's free 20-second time save or something.
It's kind of funny because when I first joined, I was very tunnel vision on bopping Ryan, so I actually didn't really care about the top runners. I wasn't thinking about world record. I wasn't thinking about anything like that. I would basically I would ask Snowy and Jax a ton of questions of how to improve and what things I need to work on. I remember I think I would ask Jax the most things. I remember always talking to Jax and Snowy. I think both of them kind of equally. I would always ask them for advice and questions on how to improve. But it was funny because at that time when I was watching them be top runners, it didn't I didn't really know what speedrunning was when like I first came in. Like I knew that like world records, like okay, like world record and like they're like the best runner or whatever, but it was never in my radar at all when I was watching them. It was always just like, I need to bop Ryan. This is my goal. I'm grinding like 8 hours every single day to bop Ryan. And I did. Like, they weren't motivating just because they were top runners. They were just motivating in terms of like Jackson, Snowy, and like Cole and like Mortal. Like they were my friends, and so they would like, you know, they would motivate me to keep going just because like they're my friends, not necessarily because of the skill that they possess, but mainly just them believing that I could do it. I would say that would be more of a motivation factor rather than just like, oh, they're like top runner, like world record, like woo. It was fun to watch them get the world record, but like I never saw myself in that vein or level or even like wanting to do that, right? Like my only goal was to bop Ryan, and I thought at the time, like once I bopped Ryan, I was just gonna peace out, you know what I mean? I was gonna dip.
So, hello, my name is Headhunter. I live in Minnesota and I'm 24 years old. I've been playing Scooby since I was a young kid. Actively got into speedrunning the game back in about 2018 and joined the Discord more back in about 2019. I would say when it comes to motivation from those top runners, I definitely agree that they gave me motivation. I did catch Harsh streaming a few times, and I definitely enjoyed interacting with him and watching his runs. I definitely would watch any new world record videos, and even nowadays, whether I'm active or not, I'm constantly watching the new world record videos to see if there's any new tricks that have been come around. But I definitely have a good bond with them. I think that they are great runners. I believe that they really motivated me to want to run the game more, being the nice people that they are. They really made my love for the game grow even more.
The main motivation to keep me running was the community. And then once I sort of started seeing my times go down lower and lower, I realized, oh, I could probably get a world record if I focused on this. And especially since at the time, all monster tokens was a relatively new category added. It had a lot of potential, which is why that was a record I decided to go for early on. My first world record, from my recollection, is an all monster tokens speedrun, also known as AMT, with a time of 1:15:26. And the reason I remember it so fondly was because me and Holy Sanctum were doing a race together at the time. And Holy Sanctum was the current defender of the world record. And we were racing it. I was doing a relatively new strat to skip a whole section of the game. And this skip was called Black Knight Early, where we can skip a whole section, get a monster token, and just leave. And I spent probably like 30 minutes just doing this skip. And after the run, I lost the race to Holy, but I beat his previous run, and I happened to submit it first. So it got verified before his run that had already broke the record got verified. And that same day I sat down afterwards and I was like, I can get a better run. And I just ran it again and got a 15-minute better time. Or I'm looking at it at the number here. It's I got a 1:02:07 the same day, because I was like, I want it to actually be a record, not like this fake record that only was a record due to like a technicality. For my world record sort of history, or whatever you want to call it, I started out obviously with that one world record I mentioned earlier with AMT. From there, it was kind of, the barrier was, can I get the any % world record? And I picked up a couple other of the sort of more miscellaneous categories, like all bosses and things like that. And the thing that was there was any %, and that was the hurdle. And I remember the day I got any % world record, that felt like the peak. And I think I was missing one world record. And I said to myself, I got past any %, let's just grind out that last world record and have all of them. And I did that around probably 2016. Then I held them all again at another point in time, because during 2016, the game was relatively hot. A lot of people were running it, so world records were going back and forth. In 2017, I remember coming back to the game after a little bit of a break. We had a bit different routes, so I was able to come in, pick up that new route, get back into form, and I think within a period of like a month or so, I re-picked up all the records. I PB'd in all the categories, and I picked up all the records again. When I first started getting the records, it was just a matter of grinding the game and learning the stuff that had already been put forward, and then just taking the time to do it. A lot of the runners like Bazralian and Holy Sanctum and Cooper Crisp, everyone that was involved when I was first running the game had done so much legwork to get it to the point where it was.
I mean, obviously the whole world record, it's pretty cool. I mean, even if it's in a very niche game at the time, like this was, still pretty cool because it's still like something to be happy about. And I've had so many world records across like every category I think I've had world record in at one point. I don't know if I ever had 7-for-7 world records, but it's always fun to just set that record because it is a pretty cool feeling and it's always fun to have it. So trading records with Cooper, it was really fun because I'm a pretty competitive person. So just being able to be like, oh, I beat you, and then I get beat again, then it's like I beat you again. Especially whenever it was just a couple people, was always pretty fun because you knew something new would come pretty soon just because the game wasn't super optimized at the time. And it was kind of the same way with Farah. Once we got down to like the sub 30, 28, 27, stuff like that. I mean, it feels pretty good to have had world record so much. I mean, it's crazy that some of these times stood for so long. Just because whenever you come back, you beat it a lot. Like, it's kind of just crazy thinking about how long some of these held for. Like the Honda record lasted forever, really. And yeah, it's just crazy how much things do change eventually, though.
I don't think my goal was ever like particularly world record. I went in like, cause I'd been playing like various fighting games for like about a year and a half before I started speedrunning. And I kind of learned by that point, it's like, it's really bad to like compare yourself to other people directly. I kind of like saw world record as that, like okay, take the dubs in terms of like placement and world record and all that, but ultimately my goal was a run I would be happy with. Kind of like no GGS, but like I'd have to put like a lot more effort into one for GGS. Yeah, I just wanted like a run I was happy with, and I think by the time I was getting to like low 25, it just kind of like hit me. It's like, damn, how attainable world record is and how like much farther we could push the game. So my first world record, yeah, the 2502.250. The .250 being significant there because it is literally 3 frames faster than Baz's world record at the time, which was pretty funny. I did mention earlier, it's like, yeah, try not to compare yourself to other people too much, but hey, like, I can't deny, like, getting a world record. Like saying you have world record, like, it feels good. But I also knew, like, there's so much more this game can be pushed. I think at the time, the big push was for, like, the 24. And that run was just, like, random early afternoon. Let's do a no reset race. And, yeah, broke the 24 barrier, which this big record that everyone like had been pushing for to get broken. And then I lost world record the next day.
So I guess you want me to talk then about my any percent record then at this point? Okay, so at the time, SnowyMoogle was like, it was me, Baz, and SnowyMoogle who were all kind of at the top. Although I think Baz was a little bit more kind of on and off. So really like the 2 people who were chomping it at the bit the most were me and SnowyMoogle. And this was in the middle of October, so we had both submitted the No Creepy Early category to AGDQ 2021. So the way that works is you submit in like early fall, and then usually at the end of October, they drop the list of games that have gotten accepted for the event. And so we had both submitted. We were both very, very close together, and we were both trying to get like a race in. So we were both like busting our asses trying to improve our times. And so I remember this also being really frustrating for me at the time, because I always felt like Snowy was one step ahead of me in terms of like just inching me out every time. Like he would get a PB and then I would get a PB, but it would have beaten his old PB, but he just got a PB, so I was like, well, crap. So it was kind of that back and forth for a good while. And so we were all kind of in call for the last couple of nights before the games list drops. Because with all the stuff and improvements we were making to the category at the time, we were like gunning super hard for the game. We were really hoping for that to be the one. Because the game had been submitted over the course of several years. It had been submitted to several events, even way back when some of the old heads were playing, and just no dice. So like I was saying, kind of this pattern of Snowy like PBing, and then I catch up a little bit, and just kind of like this motion continues. And the night before the games list drops, I finally got the record. So at the time we were both pushing for a sub 25. That was like the big thing. We were both like really close. Like Snowy was like right on the line, if I remember, and I was a little bit further back, but I was definitely within striking range. And Snowy beat me to the sub 25. I was pretty upset about that, but Snowy got like a high 24 5x. And then like the day after, so this is like the 29th, so like the night before the games list is supposed to drop, I get the run of a freaking lifetime, and I get like just a couple seconds cut, and I take the record.
Where is he?
Oh my fuck!
Wait.
Oh my god. Go, let's go.
It's over! 52! Oh my fucking god!
Oh my god.
Oh my fucking god!
Unfortunately for me though, Snowy bopped me back less than 24 hours later after the fact.
Oh. Yes! Let's go! No fucking way! No fucking way! Let's fucking go! There's no fucking way! Let's go! Fucking god! Wait, what time?
24:50.
Holy shit! Holy fucking shit! Oh my fucking god! Pokemon's in the chat!
It was kind of a weird situation, because what happened is Scooby got accepted to GDQ. And so usually the way that GDQ works is they will take the fastest person, like the fastest submitted runner on the leaderboard if they don't want to take a race. And so by that last night when they were finalizing the schedule, I had barely edged out Snowy for that small hour period before they were finishing things up. And I was the one selected for the GDQ run at first, and Snowy was not. Even though we were seconds apart, we tried to submit it as a race. I kind of accidentally sniped Snowy out of the GDQ spot, which was incredibly funny too, because literally like hours later, they finalized it, and we didn't get the notice of the games list until later that night on the 31st. So Snowy gets record on the 31st, and then the games list drops, and I'm the one on the schedule and Snowy's not, and I felt horrible.
And admittedly, I was like a little bit annoyed, because it's like we both submitted it as a race, and our PBs are 2 seconds apart when looking at SRC, though in reality, I did have world record. So they put Jax's run as accepted, and then they put my run on backup. I did reach out to GDQ about it. I basically emailed GDQ Basically just asking, like, I didn't say, like, take Jax out or anything. Literally the only things I asked was, we were both happy to race, and our PBs are only a couple seconds apart. So I was just wondering why it wasn't accepted as a race. And I just asked if there's a specific point where times are checked, and if the times, like, the time it takes for stuff to get uploaded to SRC is, like, taken into account for this. Because on the GDQ game submission guide, they say if 2 people submit the same run, the person with the faster time gets in. And I basically gave them the timeline of events of, like, I have world record for, like, most of the month, Jax got on the 29th, and then I ended up getting world record back before the list came out, but it just wasn't uploaded on SRC, and I just tried to be, like, very respectful about it. I wasn't, like, asking them to get Jax's run removed or anything. I didn't want that to happen.
Suffice to say, we were actually able to reach out to the GDQ folks, and we were like, hey, we have this situation here where it's like, Snowy didn't get this, but I did. Can we make this a race? And, you know, we took about a week, but we heard back and we got the yes. So, yeah, we got to do the race.
I remember I looked into, like, the Scooby VC, like, I wasn't in there because, like, there was, like, of course GDQ was happening, and I had to be in there. But there's, like, a huge list of, like, runners from not just Frights, but, like, all Scooby games. A lot of people that, like Farah, who, like, I still don't think I've ever talked to Farah. He had, like, I don't think I'd ever seen him, like, in a stream or, like, talking in the Discord whenever I was running. But, like, damn, even he was in the VC during GDQ. And it's, like, seeing how much it brought people together. And overall, GDQ was just, like, absolutely amazing. Like, huge shout out to, like, everyone for putting the event on, and, like, I'm definitely very glad they like reconsidered and allowed it to be a race. So I knew there was a lot more we could push this game, and continuing to push the game I tried to do. I had a few more world records in, like, early November, got 24:49 and 24:46, and I think it was mid-November when I actually got taken over by Mortal, who was, like, really fast up-and-comer at the time.
Hi, my name's Mortal, I'm 17 and I'm from Wales. I started off on PAL, getting like a 28 in GGS, and I worked my way all the way down to a 24. And once I got the 24, I think that was when I first thought, like, okay, now I'm gonna go for world record. Like, I've beaten Baz, who I thought was the best before, and now I'm like, I'm better than Baz, who was the person I was watching and being like, wow, he's so good. So then at this point I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go for world record. And I grinded. Snowy was also grinding though at the same time, and he was lowering the world record. So every time I'd get a PB, even if it was like a few seconds, Snowy would lower his world record a few seconds. I had like a 24:52 while Snowy had a 24:50, but then he got like a 24:46. And once he got that 24:46, a few days later I got the first 3x, a 24:39. Getting that world record felt amazing. It was all of my hard work and effort put into the game just shown. You know, it was one run showing all my hard work and effort and how far I'd come. When I started, I never even thought I would get like a 25. It's like 25 is insane. So getting a 24:39 and beating Snowy by 7 seconds, Baz and Jax by another like 10-20 seconds, it felt great. I was like on top of the world for the next like 2 weeks after that. I felt amazing. So that world record was great.
Solid.
Die.
3x! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! I did it! Pokey W's in the chat! Let's go! Yes!
At the end of the month, November 28th, is when I got the run I can say I'm happy with. Like, I'm fine leaving any percent here. That was my 24:34, which is still, like, the fastest time on that route.
When Snowy took the world record back, I wasn't surprised. He was grinding a lot during those 2 weeks, and I saw him get on multiple paces that were ready to, like, bop me, but he'd just choke a few things at the end or something. But once he got the 24:34, I was like, damn, my world record is gone. and I don't know if I can even get it back. Because my 24:39, it felt like the perfect run in my mind. It felt amazing. Like, this is my best run ever. So Snowy beating that by 5 seconds and me having to go back and get like a 6-second PB on my best ever run, it felt very difficult to do.
That was the run I'd been going for, like, regardless of its world record. It's like, that is the run for me. It had, like, not really any mistakes I can look back on and think, like, oh, if only I did that. Like I'm just super proud of how I played in that run.
Favorite category is 100%. Basically, because I just like playing the whole game. Like, 80% is kind of fun, but I don't know. To me, it just feels kind of lame not playing, like, Manor and stuff. Like, I know maybe it might be a controversial opinion, but I somewhat like playing the Manor levels just because of, like, just childhood nostalgia of just getting lost in, I thought it was a castle as a kid. I didn't know it was, like, a big, like, mansion owned by, like, a rich professor or whatever. But, yeah, to me it was just like, okay, cool. This is, like, a cool little castle I'm exploring, and there's, like, different areas to it. But, yeah. And it was just fun just because, like, for some reason, I just like collecting all the Scooby snacks, all the tokens, like, kind of just doing everything, like, the game offers. Like, I don't know, if you've ever seen, like, 120 star in, like, Mario 64, like, getting, like, good at every single thing in the game is, like, hard. Like, and my logic at the time was just, like, I could get good at these smaller things, or I can get good at everything, like, and I was like, let's try to get good at everything, and, my first couple runs weren't exactly, successes, but, over time, just, dropping my PB by, like, 5 minutes every single time just felt so good. Just because, like, Hunto's just one of those categories where there's, like, so much room for improvement, so much things can go wrong, so much things can go right, and then, you can get screwed by RNG and coffins and whatnot, but, like, every time you get a PB, it was never just, like, by 20 seconds. It was always just by, like, 5 minutes or something, or, like, 10 minutes, depending on, like, what your times and stuff were. And in that sense, I find it fun because of just getting immediate satisfaction and immediate feedback, rather than just PBing, like, in any percent by, like, 2 seconds or, like, 3 seconds, like, every time. It just felt like I was getting more gains, like, with 100%, which is my main, reason for it. And also, I just like the wacky route. Like, I helped create some of the weird stuff, like backwards manner, finding some of the tricks like Skull 3 Island. Plus, 100% when I first found it, it wasn't really optimized. It was just kind of a weird route. So, I like just adding value to speedruns, is what I think. I feel like if I can't, like, add any value, if I can't contribute in any way, then, I typically don't enjoy it as much. It's part of why I don't really enjoy, like, AMT really as much, because I just don't feel like I can add value to it, of what, people have already done to it. Same with, like, all bosses. Any percent, like, I guess felt like that way, because most of the big stuff was already found, for that, but, like, even then, with any percent, I found, like, 2 skips, which, added value to the run. In that sense, okay, I like this because, like, I found something that made the run better. There we go. Therefore, it's fun for me.
So obviously there's a skip named after me, but it's not that, as it turns out. That story is like the pride of it, if y'all haven't heard that. But the one that I always loved was because it was so stupidly simple, and we kept making it more and more complex of, like, how do we approach this? How do we go about this? I don't know if Kuzi has talked on it or if Ryan's talked on it, but Skull Cliff Skip. It was Ryan doing a live stream of attempting to beat the game utilizing a different controller because, the GameCube had many controllers you could plug in and they all mapped to the same inputs. It wasn't super complex. He decided to try doing the run with a Dance Dance Revolution pad. And he was figuring out, like, oh, this is one of the harder skips. How are we going to do this? We're not entirely sure. Like, what's the input? What are the other buttons we have to hold down? You take a controller, and what the DDR input did is all blurred out, and I'm sorry, but it's an Xbox controller. We would freak out about what button combinations to put in, the triggers and run buttons and jumps and whatever. You just hold the up and the right button, and you clip through the gate without even having to try. There were runs that other people did that lost minutes to this skip, and all you had to do was hold 2 buttons on the controller and you would go through. It just made so much sense, and the sigh of why did that have to be the answer? The exasperation but relief that we felt, and then immediately getting personal bests right after the fact was just it was nice. It was nice.
Definitely not GGS. I guess like movement-wise, nothing beats a perfect fishy clues split in Hundle. Because those rooms are a lot of like tough cycles and really difficult movement. So like when you play that perfectly, it feels really good. It's like really enjoyable. So I'd probably say that's like my favorite movement part in the entire game. And then we have favorite trick. I don't know if you've seen Skull 3 in Hundle. You're supposed to hit 2 buttons to activate 2 platforms to go onto an island. Instead you do a wall climb, and you only activate one of the platforms. Do a wall climb to get out, float out to the island, and then you soap the fish monster, and he gets like the biggest bubble. Like normally the bubble is just like a tiny and like barely goes around the monsters, but like for that one, for some reason, it gets like super huge. So you can like float across to the platform, and it saves a lot of time. I just really like that. I don't know if that could be called a trick, but I just really like that. Other than that, it's mostly been like routing. Done a lot of work with routing, especially for Hundle. It's like that route has changed a lot since I started running. It's like how we do the rooms, the order we do the rooms. It's like it optimized it so much. So I feel like I played a pretty big part in that. That's what I like to do. Like routing is like one of the most fun things with speedrun. It's like come up with new things, new ways to execute the rooms. Also did a lot of with like no levels early as well, with like changing the snack route from that. We managed to like push that category down by like over 5 minutes just from like doing some small changes to the snack route, which was pretty fun to do. It's just really enjoyable to do routing.
Of all the tricks and the movement in the game, I hold a soft spot for Skull Cliff Skip, mainly because I see it as something that I found and is still implemented in runs today, which I find really cool. But in terms of technical skill level, I think GGS is still very impressive. Just to see, or just because seeing people who aren't as experienced with the game struggle with it so much, and seeing people who are very experienced with the game get it almost immediately, it just really highlights that difference in skill that, you know, the top level runners and maybe people who are newer to the game experience. And I'm trying to think, I kind of named like very two obvious ones, but there's like definitely really cool like monster token skips and stuff like that. I mean, void warping's alright, I guess, but no, I have to appease the public. If I don't say pause storage, they're gonna burn me at the stake. I mean, like, void warping is cool, but like being there in 2014 and getting a Skull Cliff Skip, that's real hype. Come on. Clipping through, you can't beat that.
I was really intrigued by the theoretical glitches and skips in the game at the time. I had read through Summer's encyclopedia where she touched on the theoretical strats, and I was just messing around with Hedge Keely after doing some runs one day, I think, and I found out that you could jump a bit higher on the trees than anyone had found. And then from there I just spent like a few hours figuring everything out, and I found Hedge Keely, and after that I was like, wow, I found a cool skip. You know, now I'm actually really interested in the game, and I felt like that was my in to the community, kind of. Like, now people know who I am because I've actually found something. So after finding Hedge Keely, that kind of inspired me to find some more. Like, it gave me some confidence, like, maybe I can actually find some things. Baz said to me, like, oh, you should find Creepy Ellie now. Kind of as a joke, but I took it seriously, because I'd actually tried finding Creepy Ellie before in, like, July or something. Not like, seriously, but just messing around. Then I actually tried to, like, seriously find Creepy Ellie in September. Yeah, this was like mid-September. I was trying to find Creepy Ellie for like a week. The way I found it was Harsh sent me a video, and it was titled Fishy Skip Almost, and it was from like 2016 when Baz was playing on the Xbox version. And at this point I'd spent like a week in Shock 2. So I knew like exactly the height of the death planes and the exact positioning of like everything in the level. And I saw Baz on Xbox go beneath the death plane. And I was like, wait a minute. You can't usually go that far down, right? And I tested it on GameCube and I made like a little image, like this is how far you can go down on Xbox and this is how far you can go down on GameCube. And I was like, I sent that into the Discord and it was like, creepy early theory. It might be possible on Xbox because the invisible walls go right down to the death plane on GameCube. So I thought the Xbox death plane might have just been moved a bit lower and you could have gone underneath the invisible walls. But it turns out they just put an entire sphere there where you can just go into the death plane. And that's what led to the discovery of Creepy Alien and Snowy testing it on Xbox 360 later that day and proving that it did work.
I will not be against that. He's gonna get it this time. That's why he's quiet. I mean,
the fake ISO Taz, yes.
Sam, thank you so
Yeah.
much for making that file because it's so useful.
Spooky, thank you for the follow.
Yeah, anytime. I didn't realize I wasn't following you.
What? We got it! We got it!
We got it! We got it! We
got it!
Let's fucking go! Let's go! So, I'd say probably the first big glitch I found was Puncher Skip. I found it right after SCS was found, and since at the time most of the glitch hunting we had done was on PS2 from Cooper, and so we were just always told, oh, Puncher Skip doesn't work because the trigger's too high up. And I just went on GameCube and I was just messing around. I bonk on the fish and I hit the gate entrance and I'm like, wait, this is completely different. Like, I was able to do this super easily. So that's how we found out about like version differences on some levels, and it was just a weird glitch all around because we didn't think it would work, but it's really super easy to do. So most of the big skips I found, this first one's not really a skip, but I found that doing Skull Cliff backwards is faster than doing Hedge forwards because it skips 2 snack gates and some kind of slower levels in Hill. I found GGS, which skips Green Ghost, big find obviously, hard trick, still done in runs. And I found just a bunch of smaller stuff, Shaggy Skip, a couple optimizations for Hundo, jumping over the invisible wall in Rec 3 to get to the exit faster, smaller cutscene skips, Deathless Coast cutscene skip, a big one of those.
Yeah, so the very first thing that I found optimization wise, so you know upstairs 1, when the Void Warp was actually fast for AMT and there was no pause storage, people used to charge into that corner, and it would be a bit inconsistent for Scooby to clip out. I'm the one who was just like, oh, if you just D-pad it, Scooby just clips through. And then I found a load of other Void Warps, like I found the Clamor 4 Void Warp, that's used in 100%, which I'm happy about. That was such a random Void Warp that I found, and I'm glad it's useful. From there I just found a load of NLE skips, so I'm the one who found Clamor 2 cutscene skip. I found Misbehaving 1 cutscene skip. Basically, if you do a cutscene skip in NLE and it's not Coast 1, then I probably found it.
The one that's obviously named after me was my favorite for multiple reasons, and the one that was the one I discovered that led to something for multiple reasons. But I had just been messing around in that section of lab right after you go through the wrong door to get to where the extra snacks are. I had been in a call with Farah and Baz, it's Farah and Holy, and they had said, oh, we've looked all over this room, we've been looking for, collision everywhere, like it's already been sorted out, we've already searched through everything, and I kept going, all right, I don't care, I'm gonna keep looking anyway. And I realized that, hey, there's a door frame on this side of it. Maybe there's a door frame on the other side of it. I'm not entirely sure. So I tried jumping up and jumping onto the door frame, and I got that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but we're not even anywhere near high enough, and I can't jump while I'm on this door frame. Something's off. And I spent like the next 30 minutes where they were still telling me, no, we found everything. You're not going to find anything. Until I finally do the jump off, jump in, and go, he's gone. Scooby's gone. Wait a minute. What's going on here? And it was just messing around after that fact that I realized if I go all the way to the right, and I was like, I'm barely on a ledge, I have to keep jumping while I'm moving over, freaking out that I might lose whatever I'm getting. And finally, like, do a leap of faith and realize that I'm right at the 850 snack gate. And the amount of jubilance of going, hey, guys, watch this, and them just going, huh, okay, that was... It hit the dopamine receptors. It very much gave that sense of reward that I kind of looked after. Because PBs were a little bit more scarce after that. Nothing had really been found to break that open, and that helped. That helped us reroute to help us skip that entire sectional lab, and the lab 2 skip as well.
Other glitches that I found from then on were pause storage. I found the menuing for pause storage to warp without a warp gate in early December. I also found fishy skip, out of bounds fishy skip, in January or February of 2021, and that was a pretty good story. I found fish cringe, or fish clip by accident, which is the trick where you clip into the boxes in Coast 1 with the fish, or the one box. And I found that by complete accident. I was just messing around, and then I was like, well, if I found that, then I should find the other thing that goes with that. And I went into Industrial Park, and I looked at like the entire level of Pier 2 to try and find a way to get over the invisible wall. And I found out that the invisible walls surrounding the level itself are actually smaller than you'd think. And if you go all the way out of bounds and go over to the lighthouse and then jump on top of the invisible walls, you can traverse them all the way to the other side of the level. And I was really happy with this discovery, and I thought it was really cool. I still think it's one of the coolest glitches to see in the game. Coolest visual glitch.
I'd say my closest friends in the community, definitely over the years, I have become really good friends with Baz. Mainly, we met through 900 Frights, but our interests sort of aligned through that, and now we just have way more in common than just running the same Scooby-Doo speedrunning game. Other than Baz, though, I am friends with a lot of the old heads, like Ryan or Summer or Sam, but I like to think I'm friends with a lot of people in the community even newer, like such as Nastani or Coley, or I have one person in mind. Oh, Jax. I couldn't think of him. Yeah, how many GDQs does this guy have to be in before I start remembering his name? So yeah, 900 Frights, if you're in this community, you're definitely a cool person. So through that, I've become friends with a lot of people in this community that I'm thankful that I still talk to today.
I would say my closest friends in the community right now are Mortal and Nastani. Those we're kind of the top three gang. And also I talked to Jolly, who is another runner. He lives in Norway, so the time zones sometimes don't line up when I'm most active, which is at night. For him, that's like in the middle of the night. And then I also talked to like some of the people who are kind of around sometimes, but they're doing their own thing now. Like Jax, as I previously mentioned. I think the last time we talked about the Nicolas Cage video, and he's like, "Oh, well, I like Shortbread."
Well, I really like Shortbread, and whenever I'm in England, I go get a tin can of Shortbread, and I was feeling kind of happy, kind of like I was biting into some Shortbread. So tonight I wanted to dress like I was a can of Shortbread.
I literally talked to Snowy a lot as well lately, but like the mods I talk to frequently, like Baz. By the way, mods are like people who are in charge of like the leaderboards. So like Baz is one of them. There's one named Sam who's really into like archiving things, and she generally talks the most on the Discord, and sometimes I interact with them, but I would never have expected to talk to as many people like that I've never met in real life as I do now. Like Mortal and Nastani, I'd consider them like my best friends, and like Mortal's from like Wales, which is on the completely other side of the ocean, or like Nastani lives in the US but like further down south, and so I live up north, so I get like snow like crazy, and it's like 10 degrees out right now, but then he's just like it's like 40 here and I have like a hoodie on. It's like, okay. But it's just cool. It's really cool just like talking to people from different walks of life, and you have the same common interests, but you also have your differences, and it's like it's what makes a friendship. It's cool. It's just human interaction, I guess.
Because I've been around for a while, I have a lot of people that I used to talk to a lot that I may not talk to much anymore, or weren't always in the community but are new faces I'm friendly with or whatever. So kind of dating it back, Holy, Fair, and Summer I still talk to occasionally. They play other games now. Sometimes I play those other games with them, sometimes I don't, but they're always friendly faces. Then Baz has always been a persistent community member, and any time I have something Scooby related, I'd probably talk to him about it. You, of course, Nastani, I guess I've known you for longer than you've been a Scooby community member, but I should probably include you in the category of probably people I've known longest within the community. Then kind of newer faces like Sam, Coley, Mortal, Harsh are kind of the ones that come to mind that I still contact. Snowy occasionally, just naming them as they occur to me. I'm probably missing people out, and it's not like I'm trying to start beef with anyone or whatever. I'm just at a very I was at a very forward role in the community with like running the Discord and whatnot, where people talk to me a lot, and so I kind of have a lot of names.
In the community, I would say like the people like probably Baz, Harsh to a degree, although Harsh has kind of been in and out of the community, but Nastani, I'd say like pretty much like we had like a whole like Among Us group going for a little bit where we just like back when like Among Us was like the thing, we would just kind of all get in. And it wasn't just Night of 100 Frights runners. We had a couple of like the PC point and click runners, just like a whole hodgepodge of weirdos just play Among Us together, and that was really fun. And I still feel like I don't really burn bridges with people except for like a couple of people who are bad. But like the Scooby community has never really been like that. Everyone's super chill, and like it's weird too because like Baz and I don't have I have historically not treated Baz very well, because of some history stuff within the SpongeBob scene that I was being fed false information. But at the same time, that also didn't excuse the way that I treated Baz. So I guess you could say for a while there was tension between me and Baz and the community as a whole because I wasn't letting go of this thing because I had the wrong information. And, to a degree, I still feel bad about that, but, me and Baz have talked it over a lot. But, like, even still, like, that's just the kind of community we have. Despite us being kind of in the younger ages, we're mature enough to be able to have those kinds of conversations, and you don't see that in a lot of other speedrunning communities. Even, like I say, I prefer these smaller communities, but most people just want to hang out and have a good time, and not a lot of people are emotionally mature enough to be able to have those kinds of conversations, especially with someone like me, who's a lot more, I don't know how I would put it, but like I'm very I'm very outspoken, and so I can probably come across as very intimidating when I strongly believe in something, and I strongly believed in the wrong thing. So I was very antagonistic towards Baz at the time and kind of just treating him poorly, and so once I started having conversations with the people in the community, and sort of that narrative that had been spoon-fed to me had been kind of undone, we were really sort of able to sort of mend that relationship. And I still thank Baz a lot he gave me more chances than I really owed. I was really deserving of. And it's, it's almost kind of interesting because despite how kind of poorly I treated Baz and by extension the community, because I was reopening old wounds for sure, because they had received the Scooby community had received harassment from people in the SpongeBob community for this stuff because of this, and so I wasn't helping. And the fact that they were, willing to work with me on it is a really big deal. And it's kind of funny too because nowadays I'm like much less active in the SpongeBob community. I've kind of drifted away, and for a lot of reasons. A lot of it due to this guy who was spreading misinformation. For not just that, but for other reasons that let's not go there. But it's funny too because like this community that I haven't always been the best to has really been the community that's been the best to me. Despite the SpongeBob community being the thing that I've put a lot of time into, that people in the community have really hurt me. And I'm not saying that as an indictment against the SpongeBob community at all. There are a lot of great people in that community. But holistically, the Scooby community really gives a crap about the people who are in it. And they're very, very mature for their age and for their situation and for all the stuff they've been through. And I think it really speaks a testament to the volume of the community's character, and that's why I keep coming back, because even through the burnout, sometimes I'll come back to speed games. I haven't been back to SpongeBob in a while, but I always love hanging out with the Scooby folks, even if I'm not ready to game.
Probably my favorite memories is when we did stuff like bingo for Scooby, and we would just all hang out and do silly things like that. And sometimes we do team bingo and stuff like that. We did a lot of different things with bingo, and we had our own spreadsheets for it that were really, really bad and did not work the best, but I made it with the help of Feranator, and we went through it, and we had fun doing that and getting people involved in that. That was probably the most fun for me.
It was when I originally found what Misbehaving One cutscene skip, and it was 3 a.m. when I found that, so there wasn't any microphone, but Baz was streaming, so I wrote in his chat, I found Misbehaving One cutscene skip. And then I think I've shown this video before in Discord, but he goes, Sam. No, it cracked me up at the time, that is one of my favourite memories, I guess. Also commentating on Nastani's and Mortal's AGDQ appearance for AMT, with all the pause storage stuff, and the last speedrun ever that was legally allowed to use Edgegate clip, and that was good too.
My relationship with all of the members in the community was very, we were all, pretty close friends, and, like I said, we would just do races every night, so we were always hanging out, and we actually, we were so close, and we found out that we lived relatively close together, so we started having, we did, Scooby meetups at Six Flags. We actually got together and met up, IRL, which was a lot of fun. And aside from that, too, we would also, go off and play, other game nights, just for fun. So yeah, very, all friends with all of the members in the community.
This is a very tough one, because this was like my favorite memory. It's really tough because I was a part of the community for 5+ years, and there were always so many good times. I mean, I think probably instead of singling it down to a single moment, if that is all right, I would like to talk more about sort of more generally where my favorite times were when it would be late at night. Everyone would have done runs. We were all, either done with school or work or homework for the day, and we're just all hop on a chat channel, either pick up a race or just do glitch hunting or something. We'd all just find something to do in the game together, even though it's a single player game, and we'd all just have a good time. And I remember one incident particularly, because it's recorded, where I was just doing some glitch hunting, and it was 3 or 4 in the morning, and I realized that you could set the input on the emulator we were using to glitch hunt, and I had set the input to spam the button that causes Scooby to walk in bunny slippers and lampshade, and it caused his animation to jitter in such a hilarious way. And it was 3 in the morning, and we were just laughing I was laughing hysterically at this. I don't know if anyone else cared, but good times.
Yes, I did it, Ollie. I did it.
I don't understand.
I did it.
I'm spamming Black Knight armor once every frame. Yes, I did it.
Some of my fondest memories and funniest stories just have to be with when the Scooby Discord first joined. Baz's brother, also colloquially known as Beat My Bro 101, had a reputation of making very funny sex noises through the microphone at all hours of the night, at all hours of the day. And since we were all streaming at the time, if you tuned into any 900 Frights speedrun at the time on Twitch, whether it be Holy or Fair, there's a good chance you'll hear random moaning from the background throughout their PBs as they're achieving world record runs. That was definitely the golden age of 900 Frights Twitch streaming right there. They just don't do it like they used to.
I remember one thing about this community is it wasn't just the Night of 100 Frights community. It was a bunch of Scooby games all in one place, although Night of 100 Frights was the biggest. Because of this, at one point in time, Holy Sanctum, myself, and Summer, as well as a few others, organized a marathon where we had a whole bunch of different Scooby games for like a whole 24 hours, all showcasing runs, tasses, and Holy and myself, we decided that, you know, we'd help fill in where people didn't want to do runs. And we wound up starting, like we had early on runs where we had to set stuff up for other people, as well as I think I did one run myself. But then we also gave ourselves the graveyard shift throughout the entire night. And the stream was dead at this point in time. So it's me and Holy Sanctum in a call, going insane, live on stream with like 2 viewers, playing the most obscure Scooby-Doo games ever, before handing it off to Summer and taking a nap in the morning. It was bad judgment, but it was a lot of fun.
As far as like funny stories go, probably the most like funny event to happen was Scooby-Thon 2016, where we had it all planned out, like 24 hours worth of runs, mixed between all sorts of Scooby games and categories and whatnot. And there was a lot of funny things that happened there, but probably the most interesting, or you could have foreseen it happening, is we wanted to include a cheap percent race towards the end of the marathon with as many runners as we could get to sign up. We had like 8 or 9 people trying to run. However, what we didn't consider is, because we had like a restreaming situation where everyone would stream to like, I think it was like a hitbox.tv stream, and we would pull those streams into a single OBS. And that OBS kept on getting like hit offline during the runs because it just like CPU power or whatever, like internet speed. Like, so we had a cheap percent race where half the slots in the screen were blank, and then some of them were being replaced by like still images of like memes or something, because we didn't know what to do with them. Like, it was absolute chaos. At that point was kind of, in preparing and setting up for that, was when the idea of spamming the cinematic trailer that's in 900 Frights was cemented, because we just had as many people as possible doing that. I think I started that weirdness. We had like 5 or so people spamming the cinematic trailer, which was pretty ugly when rebroadcast over like 9 repeatedly crashing streams. But it was pretty funny how that ended up.
Well, the first thing that usually comes to mind is going to be the Among Us game nights, back when Among Us was really popular. Those are definitely some of the funnest times I had. And actually, that was some of my first interactions with Mortal and some of the newer Discord members at that time. So that was a lot of fun. That's how I really got to know a lot of the newer community members, was through playing Among Us. And I just remember always having fun with that. It was one of those things on a Friday night, not working, I could play Among Us with the Discord members, and it was just a lot of fun.
I've learnt how to keep good record keeping, which is good for my actual real job. It's a good practice run. So that's one of the skills I've learnt. Yeah, so it was when I first started archiving, it was when like one of the original runners for this game, Cooper Crisp, deleted their entire YouTube channel because of a copyright, like child protection law that YouTube had to abide by in the States called COPPA, and he was afraid that like YouTube would delete his channel, so he just did it himself. But the case is all that stuff was lost, and I was like, bro, what if everyone else decides to delete their YouTube channels for reasons? I need to be proactive, so I have been ever since. Back before I was had a job, I was able to actually archive multiple games and streamers if they gave their permission, but I haven't been able to do that since. So I'm intending on getting back into archiving soon, like when I have a more consistent set date and what days I'm not working. But yeah, it's mostly due to just for that incident with Cooper. But I also wanted to like have like a centralized YouTube channel for a lot of things that are put on the Discord, and people don't want to upload to their own YouTube channel, and then they can just watch all that stuff. And obviously, when the PlayStation 1 prototype for this game was leaked, I was like, well, I can always just use that channel to put all the cutscenes on. And yeah, mainly just organizing stuff.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned in this community is actually just directed towards speedrunning itself. And I know exactly the person that I learned it from was Snowy. I remember he was talking to me, I think, and also Cole, but I just remember him telling me at some point that, like, you know, speedrunning is about like getting the best run that you possibly can and not necessarily focusing on the competition or like the leaderboard or like getting number one or whatever. And that really has stuck with me because that kind of branches out into your real life, right? Like, it's not necessarily like you don't need to be better than everyone at your craft. You don't need to be like always like you don't need to be, I would just say you shouldn't like compare yourself to others, period, at all. Obviously, it's super hard to do. We all do it, right? I do it, you do it, your mom does it, right? Oh man. But I would say that, like, not comparing yourself to others and just really just like focusing on your own self-improvement, I would say is the biggest thing that I've learned, because it's just like at the end of the day, all you can do is be the best that you can be, and you can control that in your own destiny with how much you work at something and how much time you put into it. And I'm not going to say that you can accomplish anything that you ever want. Sometimes you will fall short of like your goal, or you know, sometimes you won't get necessarily the the run that you want, the job that you want, like whatever. Like, sometimes things fall through the cracks. But I think the biggest thing that Snowy has taught me is just that, like, even if you fall short, even if you don't, you know, get your time, you know, get whatever, you know, as long as you did the best that you could and you are proud of the work that you put into the thing, that's enough, right? It's just like, as long as you are proud of yourself, that is the most important thing at the end of the day, whether the outcome reflects your work or not. Because you can't control the outcome most of the time, you know? You can only control the work and your dedication to whatever your craft is and whatever you're putting your time into. Like, that's the thing you can control. You can't really control anything else. So I would say that's the biggest thing I've learned.
I think one thing I've learned from being part of the community is to be less competitive, like, all of the time. Speedrunning as a community is about encouraging each other to do better instead of just wanting to be better than everyone else. Obviously, it's easy for me to say that as being like the world record holder of every category, but by being a part of this community, really learn that speedrunning is like, it's a group sport. It's about finding strats for the whole community and making sure everyone is happy, as motivated as they can be while running. So I think that's definitely something I've learned, and that's something I've come to understand about speedrunning from being a part of this community.
It's interesting as far as being part of the community and kind of, because I've kind of aged with the community to a degree. Like, when I joined, I was 14 at the time, like just entering high school. And then now I'm 21, of course. So quite literally, I kind of aged with it. There was a lot of random dramas and issues that had come up, especially kind of earlier in the Discord's life and the community's life, and had to learn how to deal with those issues. And because everyone has a different vision for what the community should look like, and ultimately, as someone within any position in the community, you should kind of be listening in and trying to figure out what most people would think would be best, and mediating discussions about that sort of stuff. And the skills on how to do that were very valuable.
I guess just general, just like how to like interact with just different personalities. Because like, when you go online, like you don't really know anyone. So like you're going to a party, you're trying to like give that little elevator pitch to kind of like, spark a conversation out of people. Like some people are shy, some people are monotone, some people are very hyper and imaginative, some people are, some people are like, kind of sound like radios, but some people like music, It's really just, I just learned how to like interact with people. Like, there's been some times where like, maybe I've like said the wrong thing and, so I've done stuff I kind of regret, but, then, we talk it out, we apologize, and, we work through it.
This is gonna sound weird. I've learned what I want out of the company I keep. Because some of the kind of the stuff I was talking about with my history with Baz, I didn't really realize until I had had this community in my life, like what a blessing it has been to be around people who are mature, care very much about you, not just care about what you do in the game, but care about who you are as a person and the stuff that you bring to the table. And I think it's definitely influenced a lot of what I look for in speedrunning communities in the future, because I'm always picking up new stuff, right? And it's sort of helped me to filter situations and communities to a smaller degree that I can sense being toxic, because they're not going to fill my emotional bucket in the same way, And I've also learned some harder stuff about myself and how I treat people, as well as I know a lot of people say speedrunning can be like a family, but I can actually kind of understand how that feels now, to a degree, and sort of. Yeah, just like it feels like I found people that get me. And now that I know what those people kind of are like and what they look like, it's become easier for me to find more of those people in my life. And it just feels like I'm assembling a crew of homies that are all just into weird stuff and are just weird, and I'm weird, and that's cool, And that's sort of the whole thing with the Scooby community is we're a bunch of weirdos. And that's totally okay. And just how we make space for each other is the other big thing, Giving people room to be them, but still establishing boundaries, I think is the other thing I've taken away.
I think that this community has definitely changed how I look at friendships in general, whether it be online or in person. I've said this, but, talking to people online was a very foreign thing to me. And now I do it daily, and it brings up really interesting discussions. But at the end of the day, you kind of realize that everybody's a human. Everybody's a human being. Even people in real life, I even have more sympathy for now. Especially that I'm in college, where people come from all over the world. I feel like I can talk to people a lot better and understand where they come from. And, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all got our problems. We all have our own thing going on. And I think just having discussions from such a completely different point of view from people all over the world has really affected how I look at things.
So now Frights actually completely changed how I view my online and personal relationships, because so many of the people from Frights I met in real life and became my friends in that way, that actually now a lot of my connections are with people that I've met online, and it became kind of like a stepping stone for like these online interactions, since that was me joining Frights was like one of the first big like getting to know like real people in that sense online. Now a lot of that stuff that I do is online, and so is the people that I meet.
I think relationships within the Scooby community are, or any speedrunning community for that matter, are almost different than those you'd encounter anywhere else, in that the amount of people that are interested in the game is pretty limited. You know, we have, I don't know the count off the top of my head, let's say like 100 people or whatever that would be interested at any point in like, talking about any of the Scooby games. So if you have any personal issues with any specific member of the community or multiple members of the community, that can be really difficult because there's nowhere else to go. You pretty much are forced to confront it. Whereas in real life, like in college, or if for a larger game like League of Legends or Smite, if you have problems with the people that you're talking to, you always have the option of kind of quitting it there, which was never an option here. There was one community, it'll never splinter. You just have to overcome the personal difficulties somehow, and kind of learning how to deal with the personal issues in a healthy way was very important in helping manage the community and even personally remaining part of the community as long as I have.
This community changing my ideas of friendship, absolutely. Of course, I had online friends before, but this added a element to me where there's a lot of anonymity to this. I don't need to know faces to have a friendly interaction with most of the people in this community. Just simple talking in Discord, and I view this community as almost a family in a way that I don't see very often or talk to often, but they're a family that I could rely on, and I would hope they know that they could rely on me. And I think it really changed my idea of how online relationships work, that you don't need to necessarily see somebody or associate a face with an online ID to be friends with them.
Speedrunning is a community effort that started in a grassroots movement of people just wanting to beat a game super quickly, and it has evolved into beyond what anyone, including me, even at the time that I had joined the community, could have ever imagined, with speedrunning marathons donating millions of dollars to causes across the world, including Médecins Sans Frontières and the Prevent Cancer Foundation, being an entire category on Twitch when before on Justin TV you could barely select half of the games that existed in the world, and being the platform that is most used for it. And again, cultivating a community that has something to rally around despite being from a bunch of different walks of life. You could have grown up having a TurboGrafx 16 until you were 90 years old, right? And if you had decided at that point, you're old, you're on your deathbed, and you're like, I really want to try speedrunning this game, there would be some, 18-year-old out there that absolutely loves the game that would be like, let me help you with that. There is so much of the community aspect that goes into it, and there is so much that you can help with as well. It really becomes this entire crowdsourced community that has arms wide open, that will accept you. It's where you can go no matter where you are or who you are, with whatever you're passionate about, and have some form of impact. Whether you are, you're interested in art, you just really like the video game and wanted to try it out, you really want to see what breaking a computer looks like, and a game seems like the perfect first place to try. There is such an openness and acceptance from the entire community that you can find a niche, and that approachability is what I believe speedrunning is attempting to bring, especially to an audience that might not fully understand it.
I mean, speedrunning, just purely by definition, is just trying to beat a game as fast as possible within whatever specific conditions you have set for yourself. But with everything I've done with speedrunning and the rough year I did, there's no denying the community aspect is a big part of it. And honestly, with like, I definitely got to like meet a lot of cool people with like all the different games I ended up running, but nothing came close to replicating what the Scooby community has in terms of just like that sense of community and how much that like really helped me like get to know and become friends with so many people in it.
Speedrunning to me is a lot of different things. Most of my time speedrunning was with the Scooby community. So when I think of speedrunning, I think of the community, and that is the most important part because it's what motivated me to sit down, to put an ungodly amount of hours into a game you knew like the back of your hand. And it was sort of that working together as a group to make this game broken, to make this game optimized. Like one cool thing about speedrunning is that if two people speedrun a game, even if they've never met or have nothing in common, they can sit down together and already have such a large amount of knowledge shared that you can bounce ideas off of and stories off of, and there's immediately that connection. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, is that human connection. And another story is I went to a Games Done Quick event, which is essentially a charity event. And I remember being in one of the rooms watching some Zelda Twilight Princess speedrunners, and I had my like name tag badge on, and I'm standing there behind them watching them do the run, and someone who I had watched streamed but never met before turns around, notices my name tag, and because they must have seen my name on the boards, they immediately recognized the name and said, "Oh, hey, Feranator." And like that's such a crazy thing to me. Like it brings people together like that shouldn't know each other at all.
What speedrunning means to me is it's a really fun activity where you can prove to yourself that you can improve in different areas. You can strive for different things while not being particularly active. You can discover new things. You can discover new glitches. You can make new friends, make new relationships, and just be a part of a community with people that you otherwise would have never met and will get along with really well. And I think that's a really valuable thing to have, and speedrunning has brought that to me.
Speedrunning to me is, it's really a community and getting to know people and improving alongside other people and improving the game you're playing, making it fun for people, letting other people get into it. And I really hope that other people in the Scooby community realize that too, is that we try to have a pretty open community for most people. And I really hope that people later on in life, they still remember what they used to do in their fun time, and they still know like that having friends and having a community is really the best way to live life.